Okay, thank you so much. Welcome everyone to today's webinar. We are delighted to have you join us for this important discussion on the progress and challenges in the fight against onchocerciasis, river blindness in Malawi. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Didier Bakajika. I work with the WHO based in Brazzaville with ESPEN project as technical officer in charge of onchocerciasis and lymphatic filariasis. I will be the moderator for today's webinar. It is a pleasure to present you today's agenda and our estimated experts, starting with Mr. Lasson Sitima, the principal disease control officer for NTDs and onchocerciasis control program focal person at the Ministry of Health in Malawi. Lasson will share Malawi's remarkable progress and how the country is on the verge of achieving the big milestone in the battle against onchocerciasis. Following Lasson's presentation, we will have a roundtable discussion with Malawi's partners. Dr. Daniel Bwakche, Senior Technical Advisor at ANFAN, Dr. Aisatu Diawara, Technical Specialist at GLIDE, and Mr. Bright Chiwaula, Site Service Country Director for Malawi. And the three will share lessons learned from Malawi that can be applied to other endemic countries. We will then move to a round table with a representative from Malawi's neighboring countries, Mozambique and Tanzania. From Tanzania, we have Dr. Eni Sitowe, National Program Coordinator for NTDs at the Ministry of Health in Mozambique, and Dr. Clara Jones, National Program Coordinator for NTDs at the Ministry of Health in Tanzania. They will discuss priority activities to enhance cross-border collaboration and the challenges and opportunities of integrating NTD cross-border intervention into national health programs. Finally, we will open the floor for a discussion followed by a conclusion, and next steps will be presented by myself and Latson. Before we move to today's agenda, let me introduce a few words on the housekeeping. Language interpretation is available in English, French, and Portuguese. Please select interpretation icon in the meeting control. After the presentations, there will be a Q&A session. Participants can submit their questions or comments in the chat function, and all can raise their hands to speak. When talking, colleagues, please use the standalone microphone or headset microphone rather than the built-in microphone. This meeting will be recorded. The recording and slide will be shared with the participant after the meeting. Thank you all for being here. We look forward to a productive and insightful session. We can now move to the first presentation, which will be given by Latson. Latson is the NTD coordinator, and Laston will take us on progress made by Malawi in the fight against onchocerciasis. Latson, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Didier. Let me welcome everyone to the Malawi presentation on the status of onchocerciasis elimination in Malawi. That is my presentation outline, so I'll go through the history of the Malawi onchocerciasis control program, evaluations conducted so far, onchocerciasis elimination mapping that was conducted in 2024, reading site surveys, Malawi onchocerciasis elimination expert advisory committee meeting, remaining gaps and challenges to achieve the elimination, cross-border collaboration, and then I'll talk about finally progress towards NTD 2030 roadmap. As a history of the Malawi onchocerciasis control program, the Malawi onchocerciasis control program started in 1984 in partnership with the Association of Malawi. During the first years, the program focused on assessing how many people were affected by the disease, identifying vector species involved in transmission of the diseases, and formulating recommendations regarding appropriate control measures to the Ministry of Health. Between 1997 to 1990, there were trials with the new drug ivermectin. And based on the successful trials with the drug, we started mass drug administration using the community-based distribution in 1991 in Cholo. And then in 1993, we extended to Mwanza district with the support from International Eye Foundation. Then in 1997, with support from the African Program for Onchocerciasis Control, the country conducted countrywide survey known as the REMO. So based on the REMO results, it was established that onchocerciasis was so endemic in 5 other districts, all of them in the southern region. So that was the pre-control based on the 1997 REMO. So you can note that it's also providing information on our bordering neighbors of Mozambique and Tanzania. And you can note that based on that, on the REMO, our onco situation ran from the east to the west of Mozambique. So based on the REMO, it assisted us to determine the treatment area. So you can note that the treatment area is a band from across from the eastern to the western side of Mozambique. So progress to date, mass drug administration started in 1997 in 3 districts under the Cholo Mwanza project. Then in 2000, we extended the treatment from Cholo Mwanza project to the extension project, which covered 5 districts. Then in 2023, mass drug administration started in Zomba and Cheu districts following the recommendation of the technical committee based on the transmission taking place. MDS conducted once a year in the 8 old districts and twice a year in the 2 new districts. Malawi is using MDA only as a strategy for onchocerciasis and elimination. And it should be noted that MDA has been conducted uninterrupted since it started, even during the COVID-19 period, whereby we trained the volunteers on the COVID-19 mitigation measures so that they should be able to do the distribution. So that has been the treatment coverage since 2004 to 2024. You can note from the graph that we started treating 80% of the population from 2006 based on the shift from control to elimination, as WHO recommendation that we have to treat more than 80% for us to reach elimination. So from 2006, we have been achieving 80% therapeutic coverage and 100% geographical coverage since 2004. We have been conducting a number of evaluations over the years. Based on the treatment coverage, evaluations were conducted because Malawi was thought to be on the path to elimination. So we did conduct those evaluations to prove that Malawi has achieved elimination. The first evaluations were conducted between 2011 and 2012. And based on the samples, a total of 8,660 samples were tested from 44 villages. And out of those, 42 were found to be positive, giving a prevalence of 0.48, which is less than 1%. So we collected both RDT and skin snip, another survey in 2015. So based on the analysis that was conducted, you can note that we had no positives as far as the skin snips that were analyzed that time. And then in terms of the OV16 RDT, so those are the results. So based on the evaluations that were conducted in 2011, 2012, and 2015, the left map shows the pre-control, and then the right map shows the post-control after several years of mass drug administration. And you can note that we had positives in Palombe, which is bordering Mozambique. And we also got some positives in Tiolo district, which is one of the oldest where mass drug administration started. So you can note that there has been a huge progress as far as the previous was concerned. If we compare with the pre-control and the post-control map, it shows that there has been progress made over the years. In 2024, we conducted the oncoscarcity elimination mapping. So basically, for ease and logical operation purposes, the country was divided into 6 operation zones, indicated as A, B, C, D, E, and F. But note that these operation zones do not represent the transmission zones. Once data from the survey is analyzed, transmission zones will be identified, and it should be reported that the zoning was based on remote spatial distribution, treatment variation, and topography. So you can note from the map, these are the operational zones that we are divided. So you can see there is A, B, C, D, E, and F. As indicated earlier on, that we demarcated these for ease of operation and planning. So the aim of the serology was to establish the current status of onco in Malawi. The map on the left-hand side shows the onco status based on the 1997 REMO. Then in 2024, we wanted to know the status in terms of onco since we started the MDA in 1997. And those were the specific objectives for the OEM. The survey was conducted based on the 6 operation zones as stipulated in the protocol, and the selection of the villages for the survey was guided by the breeding site survey outcome that was conducted in March 2024 and the 1997 REMO data. As for Zone E, which is the treatment area, previous breeding sites were the basis for selection of the first line villages apart from the 1987 REMO data. So those are the results which we got after analysis of the DBS. So you can note that out of the 12,233 samples that were analyzed, 34 were found to be positive, giving a prevalence of 0.28. But suffice to say that in the treatment area, which is Zone E, we collected 6,275 samples, and out of those, we got 24 positives, giving a prevalence of 0.38. And it should be noted that these 24 positives came from one district, which is Palombe. So note that these positives are not spread across the entire area, but they are concentrated from one district. So that is the district where the positives were found, and note that this district is bordering Mozambique on the eastern side. So basically, those are the results for the REMO that or the OEM that we conducted in 2024. We have been conducting breeding site surveys, but before that, there was a training which was conducted by Professor Boak in 2010 on the cytotaxonomy to provide skills and knowledge to the technicians so that they should be able to identify the breeding sites. So following to that, there were a search for vector breeding sites in June and July 2010. So based on that, there was now a search for Simulian Damnosium breeding sites, which was conducted between 2014 and 2015, which were led by Professor Boak and the late Baro Tere. So those are the technicians which were trained in 2010 for the identification of the breeding sites. So those are the sites which were identified based on the breeding site surveys conducted in February 2015. So based on that, and another one was conducted in 2015, the breeding site surveys, so that we have the sites where we could be collecting black flies. So based on the breeding site surveys in 2015, those are the breeding sites which ran across the country in the treatment area and the non-treatment area. So we started vector collection in 2015. So we had a number of sites where we are collecting black flies. And based on the statistical analysis of the 2015 samples that were collected, we had collected a total of 149,272 flies, and a number of 494 pools were analyzed. And out of that, there were 26 pools which were positive. And you can note that there are a number of sites where the effectivity rate was 0, meaning that transmission was not taking place. Then in 2016, we also conducted another sample collection. So you can note that some of the sites still had no positive flies, so the effectivity rate was 0, meaning that transmission was not taking place in most of the sites where the flies were collected. Then in 2020, with support from grant, we collected samples from one of the districts, which is one of the old districts. So we had a number of collection sites, and based on the analysis that was conducted, you can note that the effectivity rate was 0 in most of the sites, except one site where we found some positive flies. But most of the sites had negative effectivity rate. So based on the analysis of samples, you can note that we had positives, a few positives in a few sites. Based on that map, you can see where the positives are. We have some positives here. Then we have some positives here. Then we have some positives here. Then in Cholo, we had some positives. So basically, that was the situation in terms of the fly sample analysis on the entomology data. In 2025, the Malawi Coast Elimination Expert Advisory Committee conducted its 4th meeting from 17 to 19 February 2025. Both national and international participants participated in the meeting. So based on the results of the samples that were presented to the meeting, those are some of the recommendations which were made by the committee. The first one is that the committee recommended that MDA has to continue in all the districts until a decision to stop treatment is made. The decision will be made based on the entomology data availability. So the fly sample collection will be collected this year. So based on that is when another decision will be made based on the results. The second recommendation was that prioritize analysis of all the samples for treatment area. We have GBS, skin snips and flies for Cholo and Neno under the Task Force for Global Health Project, and skin snips collected during the countrywide serology. So those samples have not yet been analyzed. We are waiting for supplies for their analysis. So once we get those sample, once we get those supplies, those samples will be analyzed. The third one is that conduct fly collection for the treatment area for entomology data, as I indicated earlier on that we are starting this May collecting those flies. It also resolved that the committee should meet once all data are available for final recommendation for the treatment area. Other recommendations are that all areas under Palombe district, the areas which are not under treatment or not, should be conducting twice a year treatment. Palombe district, the one where we got 24 positives in the whole year, and the one which is bordering Mozambique. So it was recommended that the whole district should be conducting twice a year treatment, and it should be the whole district. Zomba and Cheu have been conducting twice a year treatment, so it was recommended that the twice a year treatment will continue. Based on the results of the OEM, it was recommended that no treatment is required in the areas not under treatment. We are talking of zone A, B, C, D, and F. So a treatment will not be required based on the results that we have gotten. However, this decision will be revisited after having complete data on fly infection for those zones. It was also recommended that the country should start working on its dossier, and the program is also encouraged to publish papers as well as any other data related to elimination of onco in Malawi. So it was said that this will be advantageous for the country dossier. So these are some of the recommendations which were made during the technical committee held from 17th to 19th of February this year. We have remaining gaps and challenges to achieve elimination. Some of the endemic areas share borders with Mozambique, and the people of these two countries, they flee across and live in both countries. The river is the one which is forming the boundary between these two countries on the eastern border. Some of the sites where the positives were found are on that river, which is bordering Malawi and Mozambique. So it's very important that there is a need for harmonized activities. So the challenges are that there are no harmonized activities such as MDA assessments, the transmission ongoing in Malawi district bordering Mozambique, little cross-border collaboration due to unavailability of funds. However, let me report that we had a dissect project which was funded by GRIDE. So it managed to provide to provide a platform for cross-border issues. So in terms of the challenges on cross-border collaboration and approaches, the first one is that we don't have an MOU amongst the three countries. So the approach will be develop MOU between the three countries. Then transmission ongoing in Malawi district bordering Mozambique. So we need to continue our MDA in the treatment area. So the oncodata in bordering districts with Tanzania, Mozambique, there are two districts which are bordering between Tanzania and Malawi, and there is no OEM is not needed because we had conducted in 2024, and the results showed that there is no transmission taking place in those two districts bordering Tanzania. Then in Mozambique, those are the districts which are bordering Malawi and Tanzania, and all of them we are doing the mass drug administration for more than 20 years. And those are the affected populations in those districts. In terms of progress of onco-elimination in relation to the 2030 roadmap, we have 19 districts which are non-endemic based on the onco-elimination mapping and the REMO that were conducted in 2024 and 1997 respectively. Transmission is ongoing and in 10 districts, and it should be noted that MDA is ongoing in those 10 districts, and it's affecting a population of about 2.8 million. In 7 districts, it's suspected that transmission has been suppressed, and we are supposed to conduct stop MDA surveys and continue MDA. Then in the 7 districts, transmission suspected interrupted, so we are supposed to conduct stop MDA survey. But suffice to say that we started the part of the stop MDA by collecting the DBS in the treatment area. What remains is the entomological data, which will be conducted this year. So in terms of the projected schedule for stopping MDA based on the Malawi NTD master plan, we are sure that by 2026, 60% of the endemic districts should be able to scale down, and we continue with the 40% of the districts where transmission is thought to be ongoing. Let me end my presentation by acknowledging the financial and technical support from End Fund, GRIDE, WHO, EPOC, and ESPEN, Site Savers, Mechanism Donation Program, which has been providing drugs over the years. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Ladson, for your presentation, and thank you so much for taking us through your program and where you are as of today. And we noticed that you have 19 districts that are not endemic. Transmission is ongoing in 10 districts. Transmission suspected interrupted in 7 times to 14 districts, which is very good. And as you clearly mentioned, you are currently collecting the data, and you also have your onco elimination committee supporting you and guiding you on the way forwards. And once again, thank you so much on that. And we can see that there is a strong country leadership, and beside that strong country leadership, the country was not alone. Partners have been supporting Malawi's effort in eliminating and progressing towards the elimination of onco. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now listen to key partners. For the sake of time, we cannot give the floor to all of them who supported Malawi since the beginning. For today, we have only 3 partners/donors. We have Professor Daniel Boache from the End Fund. We have Dr. Aisatu from GLIDE, and we have also the country director from Site Service. I will ask my colleague Nadia to project some of the key questions that are going to be addressed by those partners in their presentation. On this slide, you have the 4 questions. The first one, quels sont les obstacles à l'élimination de l'onchocercose que le programme a rencontré? The second one, quelle est la proximité du pays à l'élimination de l'onchocercose? La troisième question, quels ont été les facteurs contributifs au succès que le Malawi est en train de réaliser jusqu'à ce jour? Et the last one, quelles leçons que nous pouvons apprendre du programme de l'élimination de l'onchocercose et comment ces leçons peuvent être utiles à d'autres pays endémiques? So I'll give the floor to Professor Daniel Boache. He will be followed by Aishatu, and then the country director, Site Service country director, will close this sub-session of the meeting. Daniel, you have the floor.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. I will be presenting on the End Fund support to Malawi's onchocercosis elimination effort. I am the Senior Technical Advisor at the End Fund. Next slide. As we know, the End Fund is a private philanthropic initiative aiming to support the elimination of the 5 PC NTDs, preventive chemotherapy NTDs, and visceral leishmaniasis. The End Fund support to Malawi's activities on onchocerciasis started in 2016. And this was through the CARBI, which I think most people are not aware of. This is the Coalition for African River Blindness Elimination that was set up in 2016 and has later on morphed into what we currently have as Reaching the Last Mile Fund at the End Fund, not the Reaching the Last Mile Fund as currently known. The End Fund support through CARBI was had donors as the Merck, MDP, and the End Fund itself. However, the current support to Malawi was started from funds from the donors of the initial Reaching the Last Mile Fund that was managed by the End Fund, and particularly the Helmsley Charitable Trust. The support of the End Fund would continue, but this time through the Reaching the Last Mile Fund that is being managed at the Gates Foundation with partners, the End Fund, Carter Center, and Sightsavers. The support to Malawi has not only been through technical, sort of financial, but has also been through technical support. And you could have seen from last on slide some of the initial work that was done for breeding site surveys in Malawi. For onchocerciasis program, I would say the challenges that the program faces if it has to achieve elimination is uninterrupted and flexible funding mechanism. Uninterrupted in the sense that at a point, Malawi had no partners, and therefore they had to do some of their activities using volunteers. And this did not end up with very high coverages. So the country program will need uninterrupted and flexible funding. Flexibility is important, especially at this stage, because when one goes to the field, you do find that certain things may have to be tweaked to be able to get better results. And so if fundings are sort of fixed, it becomes challenging for programs to be able to move forward. The other challenge is that critical operational research on onchocerciasis, which are of importance to global elimination agenda, are undertaken by various partners and institutions, such as the task force research that last one did mention. Unfortunately, sometimes these are not directly linked to the program goal. And so without the program goal sort of linking directly to what is being done as operational research, it becomes something that deviates the program's attention to other operational research. And so it will be good if such operational research are linked to the elimination agenda of the program. One of the things that as partners we observed was the fact that the change from elimination as a public health problem to elimination of transmission did not necessarily lead to a change in strategy. And so when the End Fund started working with Malawi, we did observe that a large part of the country had not been mapped, and yet everyone was thinking that Malawi was almost at the end of the road for elimination of onchocerciasis. And so these challenges were something that will have, if it had been done much earlier, will have led Malawi to probably almost there with elimination. But it took a longer time for these activities to be done. So this is a challenge that for the program. The other one is limited human and material resource. you may find out that Laston, as able as he is alone and also didn't have material resources like vehicles to be able to go to the field and supervise in a more timely manner. And so these are some of the things that, if not addressed, will hinder the program's effort to achieve elimination. So the End Fund did support some material provision for the program, supporting the local laboratory in Malawi to help them be able to work with the program. Next slide. The question of how close the country is to reach elimination depends on many factors. As Malawi, as Laston said, about 60%, and in my opinion, about 80% of the country may be stopping treatment pretty soon, based on the results that will be achieved. Unfortunately, if we want to talk about how close they are, these are not things that one can easily predict because they depend on continued flexible funding, operational resource that will be targeting any current or future challenges, the cross-border transmission, which Laston did talk about a lot, and then possible alternate treatment strategies in the area that are just starting treatment. As we heard from Laston, there are about 3 districts where treatment has just started. And if these areas are to achieve elimination of transmission, we may have to start thinking of alternate treatment strategies. Is it possible to use traps to collect vectors in a vector control strategy? Can we use slash and clear? Can we do some limited vector control using insecticides? Is there the possibility of using moxidectin? These are all questions that will have to be addressed if Malawi is to reach elimination across the whole country. Next slide. Well, if we want to talk about the success of fighting onchocerciasis and some of the lessons for other countries, well, on the top of the list is the program leadership. And I was happy when Didier also mentioned that Malawi has a strong program leader. And talking about program leadership is not only the coordinator, but also the support that he gets from the Ministry of Health. And so I think this is important because it makes them own the program. And I think this is something that partners should try to encourage in other countries so that countries feel that they own the program, the country leaders feel that they can achieve elimination with the support of the partners, and not that the partners are the ones that will achieve elimination in the countries. There's also a clear understanding of the pathway to elimination in Malawi. And so based on that, Malawi knows exactly what the current status for elimination of transmission. They also have the support of a local research institute that works hand in hand with the program. They help the program in doing most of the activities in terms of breeding site surveys, in terms of collecting flies, in terms of identifying and working on the samples from the program. And this has been very good for the country. And I hope that other countries that have local research institutions will be working in close collaboration with such institutions. There is the flexible funding mechanism that the End Fund provided to the program. And this was very influential in modifying some of the protocols that the program had to undertake. Because without that, one would have had to wait for another year before you are able to address some of those challenges. But with flexible funding mechanism, it was possible within a few weeks to address some of the challenges that the program faces in the program. And the other thing that I think is important for Malawi's success is technical support from partners. It is not only financial support that is needed, And sometimes we realize that countries do not get that technical support that they need to be able to understand some of the guidelines that are coming out from WHO and operational research results. And so technical support from partners is very critical for achieving onchocerciasis elimination in Malawi and in other countries as well. I will end here as part of the End Fund support to elimination of onchocerciasis in Malawi. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel. And the next presenter is Dr. Aishatu from Glide. Aishatu, you have the floor.
Thank you, Didier.
Okay.
Can you hear me well?
Yes, please.
Perfect, thank you. So it's a real pleasure to be part of today's seminar, webinar, and to reflect on Malawi's impressive journey toward onco-elimination. So I won't have any slides, so I will just give some remarks. So as a long-standing partner, Glide has proudly supported Malawi through key milestones, and today I would like to highlight some key factors that contributed to Malawi's success. So one of them being the generation of timely and reliable data to guide decision. So this was made possible in part through strategic support from partners, as it was highlighted by Daniel previously. So for instance, Glide supported the national program in conducting transmission assessments in 2 districts, Nimo and Shiradzulu, where data had previously been unavailable. And this filled a crucial gap, enabling the program to better understand the transmission dynamics and make more informed decisions about where and how to intervene. Another key factor has been the strong national leadership and commitment. I think we all agree about that. Daniel mentioned it, also Didier mentioned it in his remarks. So even during difficult periods, like after the FCDO funding cuts and during also the peak of global health system disruption caused by COVID-19 pandemic, Malawi showed continued resolve. So as an example, in June 2021, they convened their 3rd NOEC meeting virtually. And this meeting was critical to review new data from Nino and Shiradzulu districts. And this helped maintain momentum during a very challenging time. I would like also to highlight strategic planning that also played a key role in their success. So when Malawi was supposed to develop its national NTD master plan, it was risked to be delayed due to the withdrawal of UK funding. And Glide with other partners stepped in to support Malawi. And this allowed the country to move forward with the planning, budgeting, and also costing process. And this helped as well to sustain progress. So despite this progress, as my colleagues highlighted, there are some challenges that remained. So as mentioned earlier, financial constraints remain a key barrier. However, strong leadership and coordinated partner engagement have helped mitigating this to some extent. But looking ahead, it's very important for Malawi to diversify funding sources and also to mobilize new partners, as it will be very critical for them to continue the progress toward onco-elimination. Another significant challenge is the risk of cross-border transmission from Mozambique, where the onco situation is not clearly known. And given the fact that Malawi is reaching elimination, this is a risk that must be addressed. So Glide has supported the development of innovative, scalable solutions to entomological gaps and cross-border transmission. So in short, DISEC, that has been already mentioned by Laston in his presentation. So DISEC is an entomological monitoring approach focused on cross-border areas like Malawi and Mozambique. And this aims to generate the evidence needed to inform treatment strategies and protect the game mates. So to the questions, how close is Malawi to elimination? So today, Malawi is clearly at the last mile, as highlighted in Laston's presentation. And as he mentioned, according to the latest NOEC recommendations, the country is on track to reach elimination if the remaining steps are completed. So Laston mentioned the collection of entomological data, to continue biannual treatment, and also to ensure treatment is extended to historically high pandemic zone. So what can other countries learn from Malawi? So first of all, a good lessons from Malawi, and something that could be also replicated to other countries, is a strong leadership and country ownership that are both key for success. I would like also to mention a strong coordination with partners aligned around a shared vision that help programs to adapt and move forward, even in very challenging times. And finally, having regular NOEC meetings have played a critical role in validating data, decision and guiding decisions as well, and ensuring alignment with WHO recommendations. So GLIDE is proud to support Malawi and believe the lesson shared today, from filling data gap to managing cross-border risks, can help inform elimination efforts across the region and beyond. So thank you. And over to you, Didier.
Merci beaucoup, Aishatou. The next presenter is Mr. Bright, Country Director, Site Service. So Bright, are you there?
Yes,
Bright?
yes, I am.
Yes.
I am, Didier.
You have the floor.
Right, thank you. I'll present our experience in working with the Minister of Health in the trachoma elimination, the things that we've learned that could possibly also be replicated in other countries that have the similar challenge. As you might have heard from Laston's presentation, Site Savers is one of the partners that has been working with the Minister of Health for quite some time now. And coming straight to the questions that I'm supposed to address, the issues of barriers to elimination. One thing that we've noted is that some districts that were regarded as hypoendemic were later found to require interventions like MDAs. So this kind of work where you kind of go forward and then come back, you go back and forth, could be a bit challenging in terms of progress towards elimination. But also the funding challenges to meet annual requirements of the program. There are times when the ministry is not able to meet all that needs to do in a particular year. So funding has also been another challenge. In terms of how close we are to reach elimination as a country, it's very tricky to say because currently what we are happy with is that the onco-elimination mapping results have shown that we are making some steady, good progress towards elimination. And I think once the issues that have been identified as still outstanding, once those are addressed, then we can make a steady progress towards elimination of onco maybe by 2030. But there are more factors to be considered if we're talking about reaching elimination. But the most important point is that we are making some good and steady progress towards that. In terms of Malawi's success of fighting onchocerciasis, there have been a number of factors. Number one, it has been the steady supply of ivermectin drug with smooth clearing processes at port of interest. There was no time when we had challenges with clearing the drugs once received. Secondly, it's the good population data or data in general. It's been very accurate. This has also helped in making estimates for drugs that are required for the country. There has been availability of support in terms of financial resources by different partners, which has also been very key. But also important has been the good community participation in the program. We've seen members of the community welcoming the program, but also supporting the activities. Good leadership and supportive management at all levels of Ministry of Health. We are talking of at national level, district level, and even at community, at the facility level. All these have been key in ensuring that Malawi makes a good progress. Some lessons that we've learned in the implementation of the program in Malawi are as follows. Number one thing we've noted is that there's need to capacity the laboratories. At least there must be a laboratory in country that has skilled human resources, but also equipment to do entomological analysis to minimize or prevent delay or loss of data when samples are sent out of the country. We have a situation in Malawi whereby some samples which were sent outside the country some time back have not yet been given back to us. So that can be challenging. So having a lab that is capacitated to do this work is very key. Secondly, strategic plans or annual plans should ensure program resilience to impact of climate change and other emergencies. We are aware that we are living at a time when climate change is affecting us and affecting various programs like the ONCO program. Some of the key components can be affected, like the breeding sites can change because of the flooding. MDAs can be affected because of displaced populations. So there's need to ensure that programs are resilient to such impact of climate change. And then data management. There's need for an ONCO program to have some key indicators included in the health management information systems, like DHIS2, for reporting and warehousing of data to be used in the pre and post elimination periods. The data is collected over a period of time. When data is just kept in one place, which is not very safe, we may end up losing information at the time we're preparing dossiers after maybe 10 or 15 years. But using those platforms could help. Coordination is also key, especially where there are multiple partners, to ensure that partners are on the same page in terms of tracking progress, their roles, program standards, and deliverables. When partners are not well coordinated, sometimes there's an element of competition that comes up. We learned this from another program of trachoma elimination. So coordination is quite key. I think I'll finalize by saying that one of the lessons is the need for continuous advocacy to Ministry of Health at national and district levels, that an elimination program should have increased funding for essential activities despite presence of program partners. There are times when the Ministry of Health can at times leave it out to the partners to do everything in terms of funding. But it's important for us to continue advocating for MOH support in terms of them inputting funds in the programs as well, as long as it's an elimination program. I think I can stop there for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bright, Daniel, and Aishatu. Before we move to our two next presenters, who are going to be NTD program managers in the neighboring countries, I would like just to summarize on what we heard about support from donors in terms of also some of the challenges faced by the program, financial constraint, have been mentioned. Risk of cross-border collaboration, the importance of strong program leadership, collaboration with local stakeholders, access to flexible funding, consistent technical support from partners, the need to strengthen lab capacity, the need for improved coordination among partners, and Bright mentioned continued advocacy for funding as some of the drivers to where Malawi is. We are dealing with a vector-borne disease, and effective interventions against this disease require collaboration with neighboring countries. As we know, Uncle doesn't respect borders. Black flies do not care about borders. So cross-border efforts are crucial and very crucial to achieve both national and global elimination goals. The two program managers of the neighboring countries, Tanzania and Mozambique, are going to share in few words their experience in terms of cross-border collaboration. And in their speech, they are going to address the following 4 questions. Nadia, can I have the questions? The first one is challenges and approaches to cross-border collaboration, data on onchocerciasis endemic border districts, the impact of USAID funding cut on planned cross-border activities, challenges and opportunities of integration of entities intervention into existing national health programs and primary healthcare. So the first presenter is Enis from Mozambique. Enis, are you there? Enis?
I hear you.
Okay,
Boa
thank you,
tarde.
Enis. You have the floor, 5 minutes, please. Over to you, Enis.
Ok, bom, eu não sei se faço a apresentação ou faço um comentário da apresentação que fiz. Não sei. Doutor Didier?
Yes, please. Je vous
Uh,
entends. Je vous entends. Go ahead, Enis.
ok, bom. Uh, sim, obrigado. Peço para passar para o slide seguinte, por favor. Bom, esta é a situação da endemicidade da oncocercose em Moçambique depois que se fez um mapeamento de base em 7 distritos. Mas antes queria esclarecer que, em função do mapeamento que tinha sido feito em 97, 2007 pela rede de apoio para a eliminação de oncocercose, que era baseada em palpação de nódulos, Moçambique sempre foi considerado um país hipoendêmico e, por conta disso, não havia nenhum tipo de intervenção a nível comunitário para com a oncocercose. Mas, porque o país percebeu que, primeiro, pela dinâmica das mudanças climáticas, não só pelo fato de fazer fronteira com Malawi, que já é um país sobejamente conhecido com a endemicidade em alguns distritos alta, decidimos realizar uma pesquisa nas regiões transfronteiriças. Como podem ver, o mapa aqui mostra a região de Lago, que faz fronteira com Malau, na região norte de Moçambique, mas também fizemos na província de Tete, nos distritos de Cawarabassa, Mágoa, fizemos também na província da Zambésia, em Milange e Morumbala. Então, esse estudo foi feito de forma curiosa para compreender o que poderia estar a acontecer em relação à oncocercose no país. Então, como disse, só foram 7 distritos. Desses 7 distritos avaliados, percebemos que há 4 que são endêmicos, que é o distrito de Lago, Sanga, na província de Niassa, e depois tivemos Milange e Morumbala, que também são endêmicos. E em função desses resultados, começaram a fazer as campanhas de tratamento massivo no ano 2024, que foi no ano passado. Mas no âmbito da colaboração transfronteiriça, há um projeto que está sendo executado na região transfronteiriça entre Malawi e Moçambique, particularmente na província da Zambésia. Do lado de Moçambique é Milange, é no distrito de Milange, é o projeto DICET. Então, uh, é um projeto baseado em prospecção de rios e também procura ver a dinâmica dos vetores, assim como também foi alargado para a componente humana para ver qual é a prevalência da oncocercose naquela área transfronteiriça. Próximo slide, please, por favor. Bom, como podem ver, esta informação que eu já estava a transmitir em relação à endemicidade que já é conhecida dos distritos que fazem fronteira com Malawi. Próximo slide. Então, em relação aos desafios e abordagens da colaboração transfronteiriça, nós estamos cientes que a colaboração transfronteiriça, no âmbito da eliminação de doenças de caráter transmissível, num contexto em que a população, tanto de um país, tanto do outro, que convivem, nós achamos isso uma oportunidade para que se garanta uma eliminação efetiva de todas as DTNs, não olhando apenas para um sarcose. Mas também precisamos compreender que é necessário que se crie uma plataforma para fortalecer esta colaboração para uma planificação conjunta, porque se eu percebi, o Malawi também despertou a atenção da necessidade desta colaboração pela dinâmica da própria doença, para Malawi garantir que eliminou a oncocercose, havia necessidade de compreender o que é que está a acontecer no contexto de fronteira do país vizinho. Então, foi nessa perspectiva que houve essa tendência de aproximação para uma colaboração que venha trazer resultados positivos. Mas, como me referi anteriormente, Moçambique ficou mais de 10, 15 anos a ser considerado hipoendêmico a oncocercose e, por conta disso, não tinha que fazer nenhum tipo de intervenção. Próximo slide, por favor. Bom, risco relacionado com a suspensão do financiamento da USAID. Por enquanto, nós, como dizia, temos medicamento que estava predestinado para a realização de campanha neste ano nos distritos a que me referi. Bom, estamos cientes que o país também tem a responsabilidade, mas em relação aos medicamentos, nós já estamos a trabalhar internamente para fazer a integração das campanhas de tratamento massivo com outros programas de saúde, como malária, por exemplo, durante a discussão de redes mosquiteiras. Mas nós tememos que esta suspensão venha a trazer riscos de caráter epidemiológico, como, por exemplo, a recrudescência dessas doenças. Não temos certeza se realmente vamos conseguir, a curto prazo, um apoio financeiro para dar continuidade às nossas intervenções, porque a nível de financiamento doméstico ainda temos dificuldades de acesso a fundos para dar seguimento às nossas intervenções. Estou-me a referir concretamente ao mapeamento para a eliminação da oncocercose. Estou a falar das avaliações tanto de impacto, assim como de vigilância da filariase linfática, assim como do tracoma. Porque só para elucidar aquilo que foi o apoio da USAID, nós conseguimos distribuir cerca de 17,1 milhões de medicamentos, pelo menos para uma DTN, de forma contínua, sem interrupção. E isto permitiu que 12,5 milhões de indivíduos estivessem livres de contrair novas infecções relacionadas com estas doenças. Então, mais uma vez, é um privilégio para nós esta abertura que está a existir para que realmente haja uma colaboração efetiva no contexto da eliminação das doenças tropicais negligenciadas, não só com Malawi, assim como também com a Tanzânia. Muito obrigado.
Clara, are you there? Obrigado, Enis.
Hello, Didier. Can you hear me
Yes.
now?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. And sorry, I'm going to talk you through the cross-border issues between Tanzania and Malawi. Next, please. I'm Dr. Clara Jones, the program manager from the Neglected Tropical Disease Control Program. And the outline of my presentation is going to go through a very brief talk on background of onchocerciasis in Tanzania, and then the cross-border issues between Tanzania and Malawi, and then the planned activities in border district, as well as the conclusion and way forward. Next, please. So with onchocerciasis in Tanzania, the efforts to control started as back as 1990s when the basic mapping was conducted through nodule palpation. And this was followed by the first MDA community-based, which was in the selected these villages, which were found to be hypendemic in 1994. And later on, with support from APOC, there was annual IVM distributed following the CDTI approach. And from 2009 onward, we have been doing onco elimination, onco as well as LF-MDA as a single package using ivermectin and albendazole, since all the districts which were endemic to onchocerciasis were as well endemic to LF. But as of now, all the districts which are endemic to onchocerciasis have stopped MDA for LF, and we are doing only onchocerciasis in those districts. Next, please. So, so we do have potential cross-border transmission with Burundi. If you can press the next, please, Nadia. So we do have cross-border issues between Burundi and Tanzania, Malawi and Tanzania, as well as Mozambique and Tanzania. And for Burundi and Tanzania, we did an onco elimination mapping, and the areas doesn't require the intervention. Whereas with Mozambique and Tanzania, the areas are still ongoing, and these specifically for Mozambique are those areas where the transmission is still high. And for Malawi, we have 4 districts, 1 focus, which was really active with transmission. And for now, it has stopped, it is on the stop MDA research, but we have 4 districts which also recorded the high prevalence of onchocerciasis way back in 1994. Next, please. So the background of the districts, the bordering district, as I mentioned, we have 4 districts which are endemic, and of those districts, they have been on MDA since 1998, and the focus is designated as a research focus on stop MDA prevalence threshold, which started since 2021. And the focus is, if you look at the transmission zones in Tanzania, actually the focus which borders Malawi is one focus where we've done a lot of entomology work, and the type of vector in this area is the Simulium damnosum. Next, please. So the focus has been on treatment since 1998 as a vertical program, and then later on following the CDTI, and we've recorded reasonable coverages, which is in most cases above 70. And it has, as of 2021, it had received a total of 20 rounds of MDA and stopped MDA in 2021 to allow the research which is going on. So it's not that it has reached the stop MDA or it has stopped as that we have interrupted the transmission, but rather it's designated as a research focus. Next, please. So now narrowing down to the districts, we have 2 districts which border Malawi, and this is Ileje bordering Chitipa and Karonga bordering Kyela in Tanzania and Karonga in Malawi. And as you can see, we have this river system in this area, where these districts actually share the distribution of the rivers. So it's one area where if you have infection in one area, you are more likely to experience cross-border. However, from what Laston said during his presentation, Chitipa and Kalonga doesn't require intervention, while on our end, it's still on the district which is bordering is still on the research area. The prevalence which was recorded way back in 2021 was 0.03, both in Kiela and Ileje. Next, please. So as it is on the research project, we've been doing the serology monitoring as well as entomology. And the current data we have is that, which was conducted in 2022 and as well as 2021, 2024. For 2022, the reported prevalence was 0.1 for serology as well as ELISA. Next, please. And also the same for 2024, we had 0.1 for both RDT as well as ELISA. And we are yet to get the ENTO results, but from the look on it, it's in one area where we could stop the MDA. Next, please. So the planned activities will, for now, we will stick to the first, which is district on stop MDA threshold. And I would like to mention that this is not affected by the USAID funds. Thus, we are still going on with the research. And with what was mentioned earlier by Laston, we may not need to do the river prospection anymore, because we were looking at what will the OEM say, the results from the OEM, to decide if we might need the cross-border river prospection. But from the look on it, since it is not designated as an endemic, this may not happen. So looking at it, we don't have a big threat across the border. However, these 4 districts, which is the transmission zone bordering the Malawi, will eventually stop MDA and go to the post transmission surveillance. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Clara. Thank you so much, Enis. And before we move to Q&A question, Laston, you have some questions in the Q&A chat, so I'll give you the floor to address them. From these 2 presentations, we can see clearly that cross-border collaboration between Malawi and Mozambique is critical, and it's facing some challenges, but offers a key opportunity for NTD elimination. We also noticed that the sudden suspension of USAID funding on the risk of expiration of drugs, and Enis mentioned the number of tablets that are going to expire if they are not distributed, ivermectin, by January 2026. Despite some of those challenges, there are strong opportunities for cross-border collaboration on onco-elimination through joint efforts. That's what I take as key messages, and there's a need to find solutions, especially to those drugs that are going to expire. And I know that Enis is working tirelessly to raise some local funds and then reach out to some of the donors, because we cannot afford to lose those drugs. I'm now going to open the floor for questions, but let me first of all give the floor to Laston to address the questions that are in the Q&A chat. Laston, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, the first one, I don't know whether you can go through them or you want me to cite them. Are there lab capacity gaps? Did Dissect contribute to filling some of those? over to you.
Thanks so much, Didier. Thank you very much for that question from Chuna. Indeed, we had some laboratory capacity gaps, like capacity building and materials in terms of the lab. But let me report that both the DISEC project and END Fund provided some support in terms of training of the lab technicians, in terms of the of fly analysis and the analysis of some samples like the DBS and the skin snips. And then END Fund had provided some equipment to the local lab, which Prof. Boake alluded to. So that's the situation as of now, as the in terms of the lab capacity. I don't know whether Professor Pemba, you can add more before I move to the next. Prof. Pemba, are you there?
Professor Dilo, are you there?
Dilo?
Okay, you can move to the next question, please.
Okay.
Let's move to the next question.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
after mapping the breeding site for oncovectors, what vector control interventions were deployed in these places targeting larvae control? If it was done, which insecticide were used?
The only activity in terms of vector control I can cite is the one which was conducted in Zomba. We had a breakout of flies, black flies in Zomba, which was a nuisance at that time, and WHO assisted us to check whether these flies are onco-transmitting or not. So it was noted that these flies are just a nuisance; they were not transmitting onco at that time.
Okay.
Then what we did is that we procured BTI, which we used to dose the breeding sites, and then this really assisted in bringing down the fly population. So that's the only vector control activity that I can cite as of now. But we had used BTI.
Okay. Dilo, do you have something to add to that? Dilo? Okay. The next one, were there challenges or lessons related to community engagement effort or community participation?
As far as in terms of community participation, we have had no challenges as of now. The communities are so receptive of the drug, and they are so supportive in terms of the drug distributors doing their work effectively, reaching to almost all the households they are supposed to reach out. So that's how I can put it. Thanks.
Okay, and how about Zomba and Chewo districts? Were you able to identify some breeding sites in those two districts?
Yes.
Question from Ben from Liverpool. I think Ben is still with Liverpool. I remember Ben when I was a student at Liverpool.
Yes. The time we are collecting, we are doing the breeding site surveys. We also extended to Zomba and in Chewo, which we are thought to be high for that time. So we managed to identify breeding sites there, and we collected some samples, and those samples were found to be positive. That's why the technical committee recommended that treatment has to start in these two districts.
Okay. And have you started the treatment in these two districts? Or you are planning to start? Okay.
No, we started in 2023, and the recommendation was that it should be twice a year treatment, which we are implementing since 2023.
Okay, thank you so much. The next question: for the activities affected by USAID funding cuts, how is Mozambique addressing this critical challenge? Are there adequate domestic resources to address this? Enis, this is for you. How are you handling the situation in Mozambique with this US funding cuts? Enis, you have the floor.
Obrigado mais uma vez. Como já tinha explicado, em relação às campanhas de tratamento passivo, nós estamos a discutir internamente a possibilidade de integrar as campanhas de tratamento massivo com outros programas de saúde, como o programa de malária, durante a distribuição de redes mosquiteiras. E também nos outros locais estamos a discutir com um programa de vacinação para integrar as campanhas de tratamento massivo com a distribuição ou com a vacinação durante as semanas de vacinação. Em relação às avaliações, primeiro, bom, olhando mesmo para um oncocercose, eu queria deixar claro que o país estava na fase inicial, ou está na fase inicial de mapeamento de eliminação, como eu expliquei. Nós temos 161 distritos. Desses 161 distritos, 93 distritos foram considerados suscetíveis da ocorrência da transmissão ou da ocorrência da circulação do vetor transmissor, neste caso que é a mosca preta. Então, dos 93 potenciais de estar a circular o vetor, apenas 7 é que fizeram o mapeamento. Então, temos ainda um grosso número de distritos que não sabemos qual é a situação em relação à oncocercose. Desses 7 que fizemos mapeamento com apoio da SiteServe, apenas 4 é que tiveram resultado ou mostraram serem endêmicos para a oncocercose. Enquanto isso, anteriormente, o país todo era considerado hipoendêmico, através de avaliações que foram feitas pela PUP em 2001 e 2007. Então, nessa altura, usava essa palpação de nódulos, provavelmente a técnica não fosse...
Enis, could you please wrap up?
Sim. Sim, então, em relação às avaliações, ainda está-se a discutir, ainda não temos uma visibilidade clara em relação ao que vamos fazer, por causa da sua complexidade. Obrigado.
Thank you so much, Enis. Two more questions. I can see Professor Dilo responding. Site surveys assisted to refurbish the lab to make it suitable for ANTO work. Thank you. And fund also supported with training, reagents, and technical advice to the lab, local lab, to such an extent that Malawi does not need to send samples out for analysis. All is done locally now. Thank you so much, Prof. There's one question for Clara, question from Salisu asking whether you use two different tests, OV16 ELISA, OV16 RDT. If yes, why using the two tests? Clara, you have 1 minute.
Okay, thank you very much, Didier. Yes, we use both ELISA as well as RDT. We started with ELISA, with RDT, and the reason for using both ELISA and RDT was to increase the confidence in the positivity. As we are aware, at times, the RDT would have less sensitivity. So when you're screening, the RDT tells you exactly the picture, and then from the RDT, we confirmed with ELISA. That was the main reason, just to increase the confidence in the positive results and make an informed decision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The second question from Salisu was addressed by Enis. There's one last question from Anthony. Do you know the prevalence in other bordering districts from other countries? Which country are you referring to, Anthony? You mean Malawi or Mozambique or Tanzania? Anthony? Okay. I think Anthony has left. We can just take one. Yes, go ahead. I can see quickly someone has raised their hand. Let me check. Yes, Margaret, I give you 1 minute. Margaret, you have the floor.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please, Margaret.
Right, thank you very much. The communication has been quite poor. You know, I wasn't receiving all that was going on there. Were so several interruptions up to 10 times. However, I want to commend the countries for the effort made thus far. But I'm surprised that in spite of the connotation that everyone should come together to end NTDs, it seems to me from the presentations that the partners are operating separately. It also doesn't help because we don't have a mapping of partners in the countries to know whether there's collaboration or coordination of efforts, particularly in the hot zones where, you know, that are in red. And then secondly, by now, intra-country and cross-border boundaries.
Margaret, are you calling from which country?
Nigeria.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, cross-border. I just want to emphasize again that cross-border issues are very important. By now, we should know the communities on both sides. Yeah, they're not talking together, they're not planning together. So how are we going to eliminate? In some areas, we said that, you know, we're targeting approaching the elimination, but we have to take note of unnecessary, unneeded transmission from elsewhere. So for me, by now, they should have lists of communities, you know, border to border with countries and within the country, so that those hot zones can be clearly addressed. And I wonder whether there's room in Mozambique for 4 times a year treatment with ivermectin as obtained in the Americas. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Margaret. You mentioned that your line has been up and down. There's the mapping of donors in Mozambique. If you need those details, you can reach out to us at ESPAN. And for your information, Mozambique just started last year, so they are still at the early stage of their program. So this is what I can say for now, but we can elaborate on some of the burning questions that you mentioned. So, ladies and gentlemen, it was a pleasure. Unfortunately, we have to stop. It was a pleasure having you for this webinar. We congratulate Malawi for progresses made. Malawi is making some very good progress despite some of the challenges. And we also noticed some of the recommendations that were mentioned, formulated by the NOC during the last meeting. And the program, as mentioned by Laston, is collecting some data. And once this data samples are collecting some samples, once those samples are processed, the committee is going to provide a clear guidance on the way forward. We also heard that Malawi is planning to stop MDA in 60% of endemic district by 2026. Daniel elaborated very well on that. No need to spend time. The final success depends on continued flexible funding, targeted operational research, managing cross-border transmission, especially with Mozambique, and applying alternate strategies in newly treated area. We would like to take this opportunity to thank all the panelists, participants, and the audience for an insightful and instructive webinar. Your contribution have been invaluable, and we look forward to sharing the lesson learned from today's discussion. I'm going to give the floor to Latson for the last words before we close. Latson, over to you.
Thank you, Didier, for moderating the webinar. Let me thank all who attended the webinar and the panelists for their insights. We still need partner support for us to reach the last mile. So we still need your support. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. We are going to collect all the questions and pass them to Latson, and once we have Latson feedback, we'll share them with those who raised those questions. So once again, thank you so much, and wishing you a very good afternoon or very good evening or very good night. Thank you and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, bye.
Thank you.